Hello and welcome. Today's video is coming to you from the former border between East and West Germany. One of the many points, one of the many roads that was opened in November 1989. So you might be thinking, hang on, that doesn't look much like the border, that's a McDonald's. Well, that McDonald's wasn't here then, but in fact very little of what you're about to see wasn't here then. And this point here is 2 kilometers from Neustadt by Coburg and approximately 2.2 kilometers or thereabouts from Sonneberg. So this was Bavaria, where I am now. In fact, it's a historic border because before then it was the border. This was the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg or Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, but it wasn't the Gotha bit because that was somewhere else. So we see this sign here, and you see this sign in many places in Germany. In fact, if you've been following me for any time, you'll see I posted videos with this up as early as 2008, so 14 years ago. Here was Germany and Europe on the 12th of November 1989 at 8 in the morning. So that's what it looked like. Why have they picked the date, 12th of November? That was a Sunday, and that's when this border here was opened. This is called the Burnt Bridge. I believe there was a bridge here. In fact, let's go over to this sign here which explains some of it, and we'll see the picture of what it looked like in 1988. So yeah, gebrannte Brücke. And what we've got here in this picture, that's what it looked like here 35 years ago. Do note, of course, they're expecting some tourists because there's a rubbish bin. We've got this thing here, which I'll show you. So that's still here, but this is very typical of what things looked as. I didn't get interested in this once the wall came down. I was interested before it came down. So you have this was the border here, right? So the border fence is further back, but you can see here you've got the border post, which is up. But the border post was usually slightly back, but that would be the border, this bit here. Unless there was on the West German side, it normally went up to the very border. On the East German side it didn't, because it was more difficult for them to actually control the border from there. And here we have a picture which is taken at this very, not this very spot, it's about 10 meters further on. This is, in this picture, this was from the 1st of July 1990, and we have the Interior Minister of East Germany, Michael Distel, and Wolfgang Schäuble from West Germany, and they met here and they signed something. And I wonder what they were signing. Well, it was obviously something to do with the border. And just to give you a little quick idea of where we are right now, it's Neustadt is behind me, and in front of me is Sonneberg. This is gebrannte Brücke, and there you have the coordinates, and that would be this road. Now, I had opened today a map from before World War II, and it shows that the road was here as you would expect. Now, I mentioned one of the this is a mile post, or should I say a kilometer post, which I don't know how old it is, but I think this is from the times of the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg, maybe even because it was the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, and previously prior to, I think it was 1826, it was Saxe-Coburg, I've forgotten now, never mind. It was the Saxe-Coburg spirit. I've forgotten, it's gone dead. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a moment. And here we see a little sign to the memory of the 15th anniversary of the border opening from the Customs Commissariat in Neustadt, 13th of November 2004. In fact, I should have done it a day earlier, but maybe there was a reason. And anyway, we've got another picture as well up here. Neustadt by Coburg, so that's in Bavaria, and there's a couple of people at the border. Now this picture here though, it says Zonen area, Grenze means border in German. That I believe though is from the 50s, that picture there. And then we have some super cycle trails around here as well. Now coming into the border itself. Now here, can't even tell where the bridge was. So it's called the Burnt Bridge. I don't know where it was, and we can't tell even where the death zone was. Now often, because in Germany, construction of the roads is the responsibility of the local province or Länder, so Bavaria and Thuringia. But in this case, they clearly both use the same way of putting the road up, so we can't really tell where it is. Now we do have a sign, yellow sign there, it says Kreisstadt Sonneberg, so that is definitely in former East Germany. And we have the sign here, it says Landkreis Coburg, so that's definitely in former West Germany. And here we've got a sign saying that this was the spot. Mind you, where the sign says, it doesn't mean to say necessarily it was, but this is the spot on the 1st of July 1990 where the Interior Minister of East Germany and the Interior Minister of West Germany met. Oh, and the Interior Ministry of Bavaria was here as well. And yeah, you can read all the rest of it there. So I think, I mean, this is not a very good way of telling at all. I've got a feeling the road seems to be joined there. So it's though this bit was done by Bavaria and this bit was done by Thuringia. I don't know, I'm just guessing there. This could be the former border. And that Achtung was for me to get out of the way of these racers coming down here. Right, so what would that mean? It would mean that we should be able to see a death zone somewhere, but we can't. Why not? Because the forest has reclaimed the land. And so this forest there, well, I don't know where precisely where the border was, but we can see the forest has reclaimed it. Now, there appears to be a break in the forest down there, and that might indicate that the forest on the right is, I don't think it's quite, I can't see the screen, so I can't quite point it out, but the forest to the right is lower, slightly different colour to the forest on the left. Seems that way to me. The East German regime used huge amounts of defoliants. What that would tell us though is this, look at that, that is the border. There was a border wall or something down here, and this is completely taken it back. So that has grown in 32 years. And now in some of the things I've done related to the Holocaust, and people have said to me, trees are that high, oh, they couldn't have grown that high in 65 years. Well, here in this case, we've got half of that time that they've grown that high. Well, 65, even more than that now. But anyway, 65 at the time. So coming back here, you can see, is there anything you can see which indicates a break? Now, this thing about the defoliants is really important because the East German regime used huge amounts of them. Okay, so I think it's pretty fair to say that I am now in the eastern part. I'm now in Thuringia, and there's a sign up here, and the sign says there's nothing left to see anymore, but they're wrong. Sorry, an insect there land on me. And now these two signs, Sonneberg was in East Germany, and if you look at a map of East Germany, you see the creation of East Germany sort of cut it off, because all around East Germany, all around Sonneberg, there's the mountains and the forests of Thuringia, Thuringian forest. So and there's not many, even today there's not many roads, but then there was, it was worse, so it cut it off. This area is noted for toy manufacture. So the toy manufacturers, Neustadt toy manufacturers in up here, but those that were lived up here, so they were cut off. So what could they do? Now another point I would also make on the toy manufacturers, what the wars did to it, because First World Germany was a major toy manufacturer. The area of toy manufacturers here because of the access to wood, and the First World War cut it off from its markets. But then the Second World War split the toy manufacturing area in two parts, and this bit here more or less stopped making toys completely. And that was due to being split off from its hinterland. Right, so now I'll take you back here and show you the sign, having seen the exciting emergency doctor go past. And here we have some pictures, and one thing I would mention here, that despite the board on 31st July 1949 there was a football match between Neustadt, some people from Neustadt and some people from Sonneberg. And right, so here 12th of November 1989, that's accused of people probably trying to break into East Germany. Little joke there. No, they were trying to get into the West. There we have the meeting between the interior ministers, and by March 1992 there's a normal road up here and people are travelling. So now it does say here that there's nothing to be seen anymore. Somewhere up there, I can't remember where it was, but I saw it earlier. But anyway, now what's that there? This is the control area between the border fences. Now with East Germany there were a number of border fences. The first things were just warning on the way. If you're coming from the west, there's warnings East Germany. Then you had the fences, which were of course to stop people getting out, not to stop them breaking into the socialist paradise. And the number of fences, it depended on where you were, but you'd normally be looking at least 3. It would be all the trees, the greenery would be gotten rid of. Well, leave the grass, but so there would be no cover. So on the first of all, there'd be sort of, if you're coming from the east, there'd be sort of a normal warning wire. Then there'd be the main fence, could be made of concrete, could be made of barbed wire. It depends on the circumstances where it was. And there'd be these roads here like this with floodlights. In not in every case floodlights, but in most. Because you see now there's actually doesn't seem to be anything like that. And then there would be the final fence, like the wall or whatever on the other side, where even the people who patrolled this area couldn't go down. Now it strikes me that there probably is a path like this going along the entire north to south of East Germany, or in part it goes from east to west. Indeed, it is something curious. There are parts where the eastern part is on the western side and the western part on the eastern side. Because that's just the way the border actually worked. Not so far from here as well. So here we can actually see it, but how far does this path go? Because on the other side we could hardly see it at all. But the path must, unless taking these things, there was a huge amount of work putting them down in the first place. The effect of the controlling the borders was made up a huge part of the East German economy, and if I remember rightly, it might have been even as much as 1/4, but I'm going to have to check that. But it's a huge amount, or 1/4 of government expenditure. It's a huge amount of capital, and this was because the political system didn't work. So what I'm now going to do is, of course, nothing like this would have been here then. So you see no old buildings at all. The buildings up there, I am presuming, were probably something to do with security at the time, because I'm just guessing. But all of this here, this would have been, you weren't allowed in here. I don't know where the other fences were, but this was all the death zone, so to speak. If you're found here, you could be shot. And they had all sorts of devices to warn of people being here. So this is the death zone. I'm now going to take you back into West Germany, or shall I say Bavaria today, former West Germany, and to see it from a different angle, the area we just passed through. Oh, I was going to say, well, I will say it anyway, I think it's so rude to actually use a bell. I always say excuse me, but anyway, I mean, that gentleman earlier shouted at me, Achtung! And then I got out of the way, but she did say thank you. So there you have it. So there we have it, the Neustadt by Coburg. There is first thing, and I think we haven't yet arrived in Bavaria, and coming down here is the place I think was the border. The Gebrannte Brücke, the burnt bridge, so clearly there was once a bridge here. Don't see over what, but that's what it was called. Now in Neustadt there is a little exhibition which you can go to. I went to it today. Brilliant. I thought it was quite outstanding, and I think of myself as knowing a tiny bit about these things, but in this case there was very little that I knew, and so one can see that should you be in Neustadt, you can go there, and I'll put an address down below. You have to ring the bell to get in. Also in Neustadt there is a history museum on toys. So it's got a history of toys museum, which is quite curious, and had a quick look in there, although I'm not really into that type of thing, but it was curious. So this area for so many years there was it was depopulated, even on the western side, because as there was no natural hinterland. Businesses didn't come, as businesses weren't interested in coming to border areas, despite the grants that they actually got for doing so. It wasn't worth the bother. So the populations in these areas declined, and that is why there's not many people here today. Okay, so if you'd like to see videos related to history, then I publish every Friday at 2000 hours, that's 8 o'clock in the evening, Central European time. It's 7 in the UK, and I think it's 1 in Los Angeles or something. Oh, no, not going to be 1, it'll be 11 in the morning. And so I also, if you subscribe, press the bell, ding ding, then you also would know when I publish outside of these times as well. Now, I am above all interested in 20th century European history. Okay, my specialization is in the Holocaust, but I've done lots of things related to the Second World War, and I do have this fascination for the inter-German border. I've done lots of things related to the Marxist regimes in Eastern and Central Europe. And of course the sort of Marxist regime, although it claimed it was something else, the National Socialist regime, economically somewhat similar, somewhat, I didn't say entirely, but the same sort of ideology behind it. I've also done plenty of stuff on National Socialism, including how it all started up. Anyway, good, so that's me. Thanks for watching, and all the best from the death zone. Well, I was there earlier. Bye for now.